Um, I think that on the gangsterism wasn't my way of protecting myself and getting things, looking after myself in that sense. Um, I remember the environment when I first stepped into prison was like hands coming through the windows, and I always watched this music video of this song, and he says he's going through hell and his hands coming out wanted to catch him and all of that, and I was very overwhelmed, you know. But alongside with the gangsterism, so I saw it wasn't profitable for where I wanted to go, because what I wanted to earn a living, you know. I wanted to be somewhere in my career. So I went back to school inside of prison. And after school, I started applying at the University of South Africa, did first year marketing, and I couldn't juggle it both because when I had gangsterism and I had my studies, and I remember sometimes that when it's lockup time, usually mid afternoon, you know, when it's lockup time, I used to come to my books and I used to fall asleep, you know, and that made me realize that you need to come a shift. I need to decide which way am I going, because one's got to I need to give up one or the other, but I can't carry on with both. And in that same time, I also discovered that being in gangster is not fruitful for your kids, because I had a daughter, you know, and my mom used to come to me and she's like, I just want you to be a father to your daughter. And just that words made me also think about, does is gangsterism profitable to your kids, you know? So then I made the shift. I decided I'm gonna focus on studies. I'm gonna I'm gonna be somebody, you know. I'm gonna be somebody. The I think that even for that, getting out of gangsterism, there's always been this sliding back to drugs, going back to drugs, you know. But I remember that, and it was just recently I remembered that um, I used to see my uncle do drugs on the stoop, you know, and I never used to pay it mind, because as a kid I was just saying that this stuff stings, you know, and I witnessed him being killed. Actually, the pre-event when he was killed, I witnessed the pre-event, and I just recently saw that I've suppressed that whole experience as a kid, you know, because I was about 4 or 5 years old, and I still have I see the image of them in the struggle, in the argument, you know. And up until this day, I've never asked my mom or my auntie about what exactly happened there. um, it was just very emotional, because why, this is the uncle who I said the first. I can't imagine, his his love was big. Even if he did use drug, his love was big. I remember this one time it took me to this huge cinema, and I can still remember it. And for a 4 year old to remember that part of his life, there must have been a significance, overwhelming of love that took place at that moment. So I remember it took me to this huge cinema. We were watching Bruce Lee, you know. It was just, I had a close relationship with him as a kid, and then he was gone. Um, I started using on high school. in high school I started using, and that's when things deteriorated a bit for me. It was an epical part of my growth as a boy at that stage, because I think that it's so beautiful structured once you go to all these stages of school to prepare you for the next that's going to come. And that was my time to blossom. And I went to making a choice by using drugs, and it kind of influenced a lot of things that I was busy with, because I was busy playing sports. I didn't felt that passion again for sports. I was busy doing music. I think I didn't lose the music. I just think that the the drugs kind of influenced the message that I wanted to send out in my music. You know, um, Friends, I started to mix with uh, um, a lot of new circles. I was also using drugs, you know, and these were these were fun experiences for me at that stage. It was absolutely an amazing experience to see where I've stepped on, what I've done, and just the way that I've perceived myself, and to see how people around you can also get caught up in that fantasy, because why, it was a fantasy. It was a complete fantasy, because for a young boy, there's no I started to do crime from the age of 14, because why, that's when I started to see clothing brands. I started to see value in material things, and I wanted that. And my mom and my dad, being factory workers, couldn't afford that for me. You know, I wasn't. We were not poor. We had everything that we needed in our daily lives. But there was this greed of me that couldn't see myself wearing 80 rand shoes in front of friends who wears 500 rand pair of shoes. And that influenced my decision even more. It influenced it more to go for crime. And crime's gonna allow you to have money. You're gonna do what you want to do. But actually it prepared me for becoming rebellious towards structures, rebellious towards rules, rebellious towards my my parents and my family. And it just turned me into a type of person that I would never want to be again, because I didn't value anybody's opinion except myself. If I didn't say that about myself, it's a no-go. And that is the arrogance the drugs brought along, because why, you can't be 15 years old and think you know the world. You cannot. There's no there's no way it can happen. And that's the arrogance that the drugs brings, because it was, for me, it was an ego booster. It boosted my ego. It gave me, I remember my mom used to say that I know everybody and I'm such a sweet guy, because when I come down the road, my hands are in the air and I'm like, hey, 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 I know everybody. It was, there was a side that I've never shown to my family or to my mom. If I can do anything that with the mindset and the transformation that I went through now is that I would I would open the windows. I would open the windows